So it's about being here, right? It's about being here wherever that happens to be in the car. I just noticed myself as I used to have a pretty good practice of mindful driving, and I've definitely fallen short of late. And I noticed that it seems like this urgency has come upon me more and more about I've got to get where I'm going, and I really prefer that you get out of the way. And and then when I pulled this up, I had this. Gary asked for it because he was saying that he'd get up so Gary Glidden he has to get up so early to go to work that he really doesn't have time to meditate before he leaves the house, and he's afraid if he did, he'd fall asleep anyway. So he has to drive quite a distance to the job site. So we gave him the driving meditation. So you get, and this could work for anybody's practice. Anyone who has a hard time being quiet before, whether it's because their schedule's busy and they didn't go to, it's not that you have to get up that early. It's that you didn't go to bed early enough. That's right. That happened to me last night. I started watching stuff that was building up in the DVR. This is what happens. This is what happens. And it really no good can come of it. That binge watching of television, really. You think you want to, but so I pulled this up, and then I started doing it again, and I feel so much better behind the wheel. But I've become very, very attached to the quickness and the responsiveness of my automobile. And so I find myself like probably driving in a way that well, I'm mindful, but I'm still probably driving too fast. So anyway, well, it's a work in progress, kind of like the tattoo. It's going to grow over time. So to pay attention, to be to be to be to be present. This is really the whole crux of mindfulness, but also it's and we've talked about it over the years that it's really where life happens is in this present moment. If we're always concerned about something that happened a moment ago or 5 minutes or last week or I don't know. I said that I went to a meeting I don't know 2 weeks ago. It's just popped into my head and it was talking about resentments, and I realized sitting there, I thought, I'm pretty good at letting go of these resentments, and I realized that I've had a resentment for 30 years. And resentment means, resent. It keeps spinning around, right? So it keeps coming back. Resent, 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 and it's this particular person who many times I have practiced the forgiveness meditation. I've been doing. I do the metta, which is the thing you do when somebody cuts you off in traffic. You say, "May you be happy, may you be at peace, may you be free from suffering." And so I've done all these things, and I get relief from it with this particular person. But then they do something else, and it brings me back, and I remember all the other stuff that I've been trying so hard to forget. So this is the thing about, we talked about forgiveness last week, and this is the thing about forgiveness. The pure forgiveness is that we actually do forget the offense. And it's not even actually that we forget the event itself, but we forget all of the hurt and injury and all of whatever the suffering feelings were. And I've had people say many times over the years that I'm just no good at this forgiveness stuff because I keep remembering. And I say, just forget it again, right? Just forget it again. And so this is what I'm attempting to do. And it just so happens that this particular resentment, the reason it came up was Earl was in the meeting, and he had helped me with it a few months before that, because we saw the person, and as I'm seeing the person, I'm seeing the person repeating behavior that was one of the reasons why I had the resentment in the first place. And I'm watching this, and Earl sees me, and he said, "I know, he's a creep." I mean, he saw what was going on in my mind, right? And then he said, "But it takes a creep to reach a creep. So we need him." Wow. So, okay. So the thing is, though, if I'm really going to forget, I've got to see past the creepiness. I've got to see through. I've got to see knowing. Listen, if I can know, this is the weird thing, right? And you probably got somebody like this in your life, and you may not want to admit it right now, but if I can see that Pol Pot actually had somewhere in him a core of goodness, then how in the world can I see it in this person who definitely isn't now at least doing mass murders? So it's about bringing our attention to the present moment, because all of that stuff is past. And in the present moment, there's actually an opportunity to make a connection, to actually make a human connection. And making that human connection, then it speaks to spirit. And then the doubting mind in me says, "Oh, you tried that yet." So you just do it again, right? You just do it again. You bring your attention to the present moment. Uh, this life is happening right now, and if I'm wrapped up in something from the past, or sure in my mind that something similar is going to happen in the future, I'm totally not getting what's actually going on right now. So the problem is that seeing through the filter of the past, or projecting into the future, pretty much leaves me in a state of fear. Now, it might not be like a real severe state of fear, but I know that this is what's going on. Either I am giving love, or I'm asking for it. So asking for it because I'm afraid I'm not getting it. So I need to feel safe. I need to be in the present moment, feeling like I'm safe. And of course, in the material world, there's so much going on that says danger all the time. I mean, we're getting these messages all the time: danger, danger, and people who we're supposed to be able to trust use all of those triggers to try to manipulate us into doing. I'm talking about leadership. We get political for a second. All using these fear triggers to manipulate us into doing what they want us to do. And also, I think, to obscure what's important. But anyway, so to feel safe, I was looking at this in the Course in Miracles, that this idea of safety, and that's what, when you hear salvation, you need to get you some salvation, get you some Jesus in your life, get some salvation. It's really a word that's highly charged, and it means different things to different people, but it kind of in a more critical thinking group of people, it wouldn't be a term that you'd hear too much. But it just means safety. That's all it means. It just means to be safe. And so the Course says about this, salvation is a promise made by God that you would find your way to him at last. It cannot but be kept. It guarantees that time will have an end, and all thoughts that have been born in time will end as well. God's word is given every mind which thinks that it has separate thoughts, and will replace these thoughts of conflict with thoughts of peace. The thought of peace was given to God's Son the instant his mind had thought of war. So this is very interesting, is that the instant, we call it the apple incident in the Garden of Eden. The incident was the eating of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And once the fruit is eaten, then duality is seen. There's good and bad, and there's me and you. Now we're not just separate from each other, we're separate from God. And it says here, and this means conflict. That's where the thought of war sets us at war with everything around us, because we believe that we are separate and in competition with all the rest of life to get what we need. So the thought of peace was given to God's Son the instant the mind had thought of war. So that means that somewhere in our mind is this gift of the present moment. This gift of being able to exchange the thought of conflict, the thought of all of the reasons why this person doesn't measure up, with peace. Peace where this doesn't even occur to us to think. So then it says there was no need for such a thought before, for peace was given without opposite. So before we knew duality, there was peace. And peace was. But when the mind is split, there's a need for healing. So this guy that I had this 30-year resentment, that is a symptom of a split mind. I think he is separate from me. I think he is separate from all of humanity, right? I mean, so this is a split mind. And with a split mind, the problem is that I think, I don't have any problem as long as I don't see this particular person, right? But that's not true. Because as long as I'm holding anybody out of this wholeness, I keep myself out. So this is why the practice is so important, is to keep drawing our attention back into the present, where none of these issues that are causing the problem are there. They're not there. They're here in the present. We're just with each other. We're here. We're sharing this moment together. And all this other stuff is really, it's really just a former dream or a future fantasy, because this is what's happening right now. So the thought that has the power to heal the split became part of every fragment of the mind that still was one. So it's saying the mind didn't really split. It's just a delusion. It's just a delusion that we've had. But the important point is that that peace is present in us right now. That this state of safety is accessible to us. We don't have to go somewhere to find it. As a matter of fact, if we go somewhere to find it, we won't. It's within. It's within. So salvation is the undoing, in the sense that it's a little bit. It says it's the undoing in the sense that it does nothing, failing to support the world of dreams and malice. So the safety, this idea of salvation, just says, I'm not going to support this vision of separateness. I'm not going to support this vision of competition, of war, of conflict. I'm just not going to. I'm not going along with the program. So now this is very interesting, because we say, well, here, look, we're living in a material world. There's things got to be done every day, but these things can be done every day. Anything that we need to do can be done. Well, what the Buddha says is right livelihood. So we should be involved in something that we can feel good about. But we can do anything that needs to be done. The only difference is we don't do it we don't make any decisions for ourselves alone. Because that's what underscores and pulls that idea into prominence, that we're separate. When we do things for ourselves alone, we make decisions for ourselves alone, then we're saying we're alone. So the only change that we make, we go and do all the things we do in our normal life, and the only change that we make is that every decision we make for the common welfare, knowing that we are part of the common welfare. So we don't have to go to a cave somewhere. We don't have to spend. It's probably, I was thinking it's probably a good idea to do retreats every once in a while. Go somewhere and just try it. If you've never done it, I mean, it's amazing. Go somewhere for 3 days and don't talk. 3 day silent retreat. You can't even believe it. You can't. I mean, you think it's like you're thinking right now. It's like, oh, that'd be okay. It's really something. It's really something to get through it and to actually just be silent for 3 days. And then you think about what just Jack Hornfield does. 10 days, 3 months. I mean, they have it at Spirit Rock, north of San Francisco. 3-month retreat, silent. The only words you hear is at night. Everybody gathers together and somebody does a Dharma talk. Somebody will do a talk on the principles. Otherwise, you're just quiet. 3 months. Anyway, what happens when we take some time to be quiet for a period of time is that brings us back into the center. So here's what it says about this. Let us come daily to this holy place. So day by day, moment by moment, this is how we do it. So each day we come to this place of peace. We spend a while together, it says. Spend a while together. Now, we don't have to be, now here we're spending a while together. But later, when everybody goes home, and I'm sitting here seemingly by myself, I can still spend some time together. And the way that I do that is to sit and get quiet and see that everybody's still here, that we're all, that actually nobody ever left. Actually, nobody ever came. Because we're all together all the time. And it's just the idea of practice, of seeing that. And that state of mind leads to a peacefulness that then allows us to act in the world in a way that's appropriate. And again, when I say appropriate, I mean what's for the common welfare. When we act for the common welfare, then everyone is benefited. Now, I'm not saying that things won't happen. Things are going to happen. Things are going to happen. Circumstances are going to be such that these random events occur that we're not happy with. But the point is to bring, so now it's happened, whatever it is, the event has happened. That's the key to it. It's happened. Now it's already, that event is in the past. Whatever it was, now it's in the past. Now I'm back in the present moment and say, okay, what do I do now? What happens now? This is always the question. The question is what to do now. And it's interesting how it seems like the older I get, the easier it is for me to do nothing. I don't have to do anything. I mean, sometimes it would be appropriate for me to do something. And how I know it's appropriate is, it just goes back to the same thing. I know it's appropriate if it's for the common welfare. Sometimes I get confused. Sometimes I think it would be for the common welfare to give somebody a piece of my mind. I'm supposed to give them the piece of my mind. So here's what it says is going to happen. This is the dream that we're having is not a good dream much of the time. And listen, it's not just A Course in Miracles that says this. The Hindus said it centuries ago, the same idea, is that this is an illusion. We're creating an illusion. And even if you don't buy into the fact that the whole thing is a dream, you have to know that the way that you react and what you think about impacts the way you see all of these things. So really, it is everything that happens to you in your life, you decide how you're going to interpret it. You may not even notice that you're deciding, but it's what's going on. So it's a dream. And the Course says we can replace this kind of a bad dream if you look around at all of the negative things that are happening, we're going to replace that with a happy dream. It says, in this dream, there is no sorrow, for it holds a hint of all the glory given us by God. And here's some beautiful imagery here. The grass is pushing through the soil. The trees are budding now, and the birds have come to live within their branches. Earth is being born again in new perspective. Night has gone, and we have come together in the light. So this is the vision. And this is a vision, and it goes on. This theme is repeated, is this idea of starting with an attitude that everything is loving us right now. This is a whole different attitude than the Garden of Eden thing where God gives the instruction and says, you're going to go forth and the earth is going to fight you. It's not going to give up, its bounty like it has before. Everything, it tells the woman, it says you're going to bear your children in pain, and then your husband and your children are going to break your heart. It's like horrible, right? So this is a totally different kind of an outlook. This outlook says that I'm going to believe that all of life is loving me right now in this moment. All of life is loving me right now in this moment. And we can do this practice in a number of ways, but one of the things that I've talked about in the past is if you have to go to a meeting or something like that, it may not be a pleasant meeting. You may think it's going to be a pleasant meeting, but release all your expectations on the meeting. And when you walk in, bless the room. Bless the other people in the room, knowing that even if they don't realize it, they are loving you right now. It changes everything. It changes everything when you get that idea in your mind that this person, and it could be that there's an adversarial condition set up, right? But I'm going to think instead of, how am I going to overcome this adversity? I want to think they're loving me right now, and I am loving them. And this is the whole point about being like right now in the present moment. Say that right now, all of the other things from the past have fallen away, and we all have a new opportunity. So even if the meeting or the gathering is a positive one, there's still baggage from the past in there somewhere. And so by doing this, we're saying it's a clean slate right now in this moment. It's a clean slate. I'm going to give love knowing that I'm receiving love. So from here, we give salvation to the world. So we're saying, in our minds, the world loves me. Before, I thought the world was against me. Before, a moment ago, I thought that I was under attack. But what's really going on is the world in all of life loves me right now. And I am going to love it back. And this is how salvation is received. The song of our rejoicing is the call to all the world that freedom is returned, that time is almost over. So eternity, I'll talk about that in a second. So, and God's Son has but an instant more to wait until his Father is remembered. Dreams are done. Eternity has shined away the world, and only heaven now exists at all. Now that's a scary last thing to the ego. The ego don't want to hear anything about that. That sounds like death. That sounds like, so think about. Here's the theory, and I've put it forward before. If you think about the Big Bang as being the actual event, the actual Garden of Eden event, that before the Big Bang, we were all one, and that was heaven. We were all one. There was peace and joy, and something was going on. We can't quite get our minds around it, but something was actually going on, but it was going on in a way of just eternity. Okay, so now the Big Bang happens, boom, we splinter. Everything just flies out in that moment and becomes more and more separate. And it's continuing to happen. You know that what's happening right now is the world, the universe continues to spread out and split. And so the separation is cut down into smaller and smaller fragments, seemingly. But what the Course says is that all of that was remedied the instant that it happened. It's just that we're still caught up in the whole illusion or delusion, however you want to look at it, that we're just caught up in that still. But it already has been answered, that we are in heaven right now. And the only thing that we have to do is this practice so that what it says here is we remember God and therefore return to the place that we never left. I didn't bring the book in here. Did I? Okay, I don't need it. So, the new one. Oh, okay. So we remember that we are back together in the place that we thought we left, but we really didn't. And that's peace all the time. But that's not, I mean, this afternoon, it's probably not the day. This is probably, I mean, I'm just saying, just from past experience. But what the Course is saying is that any moment could be the moment. Any moment. So all we have to do is be willing. Okay, this is the new book. I forgot. This is the new one. The first one's on the table back there, but this is a new one. You can get this on Amazon right now. Go ahead. So the dedication in the book says, this book is dedicated to those on the journey back to the place we never really left, which is to say, all of us. And that's the point of the whole talk, is that I have separated myself from this particular person that I talked about at the beginning, and what that has done is it has actually derailed my journey. Now, here's what I'm thinking. Thinking if I can actually reconcile this. I know that I can reconcile it. I know that this thing can be healed. But I've got a suspicion that someone else might take his place. This is why we have to continue to bring our attention back to the present moment. Because when we're in that present moment, and actually releasing all of those things from the past and the fears of the future, and we have a chance. This is where the chance is. The chance that this is the day that salvation actually happens. When we stay in the moment, we have the opportunity, if we can trick the ego, and it actually needs to be tricked to let go. If we can trick the ego to let go, we could actually return to oneness. And here's the thing, and I don't want you to be afraid about it, because I'm just going to ask you the question. Think about, would you rather give up self-consciousness, or let's say trade? Would you rather trade self-consciousness for God consciousness? Or would you rather stay alone? This moment, we get the opportunity to decide. Every single moment. I keep thinking, when I get right there, I'm like right there, and I'm thinking, I'm ready. I'm going to just let this go. And then the ego just jumps in there and says, well, no, I got this thing for you. I got this, like, we can do this one more thing. It presents some promise that is almost sure that it's not going to actually deliver on. But it presents some promise that holds us all in this place. But every single moment, there's another opportunity